just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
There's a picture of me and Jody in Toronto, where I found out she was an amazing cook. She brought a dish to the place, and I wanted to sign adoption papers right then and there. Also, Angel's a fabulous cook as well. I've seen her cooking up stuff in the kitchen. And I bake a few things. I bake cinnamon bread and peanut butter cookies. So I know my way around the kitchen as well. But yeah, that was a great little treat. And this is the first time I ever took a picture and said, let's take a picture angry. This is a picture of us looking at our government and what they've done to us, and just that's who we're looking at right now. And this and this is what we did. Yeah, I love that picture. Well, my guests, Jody, Ledgerwood, and Angel Godsoe, two divine, beautiful women, love their country, love their fellow man, and want it to, be restored the way it should be. And that includes embracing our culture and protecting our culture and our children and their future. And this show is about constitutional breaches and over the convoy with Adam Skelly and Adamson Barbecue. Now the case has been finished. Everyone said what they had to say, both sides, and we've yet to have the judge bring in her verdict, and she holds all the cards at this point, and the potential here is that further breaches in the future will no longer be possible by mayors and medical officers. And this is what I hope. I hope the judge looks into her heart and sees how awful this is. And, she has a lot on her plate. But before we start the show, I just wanted to take a moment of silence for the male species, that as soon as they hit puberty, their lives are over. And so my heart goes out to them and all the male, thinking about you, the praying mantis. It's better to be single when you're a praying mantis. I'm surprised that the younger praying mantises, males, didn't say, hey, I don't think we should do this. But no, they still exist, so they haven't learned. And I hope that we, as a society, can learn from our mistakes, where the praying mantis males have not. And that's just a little bit of a light note to start off our show. Very important show, very important case. I'm going to have multiple shows about this to discuss where we're heading. I'm going to have Chris Weisdorf on, and Vincent Garces as well is going to be coming on after the 12th. I'm going to show just a little clip, and I'm going to bring my beautiful guests on right after this.
I just spent over 30 hours detained for mischief and obstruction charge. That's something that most people don't even get brought in for. It took so long today because the Crown Attorney was being advised at a province level on what my bail conditions should be. One of those bail conditions is that I'm not allowed to use communicate or post on social media. That to me is really interesting. I wonder what it is that the province doesn't want everybody to know. Freedom! Yeah, bro, what you gotta say?
Well, we had a man who stood up and went all the way to the courtroom. Welcome, Jody. Thank you for joining the Truth Table.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to be here.
And thank you, Angel, for also joining us today from your homestead, your home, your ranch. And she had just flew her dragon in, her fire-breathing dragon. So I'll start with Jody. I saw you on Rebel News, and you did a great job. I've met the most amazing people in the last 5 years, and you are definitely one of them. And a lot is on the line here with this case for our charter rights and future events that may occur.
Agreed.
Are you still doing your podcast as well?
We are. We did TFM report for just over 3 years, probably 3.5 years. And then life intervened and said, you need to earn some money to pay your bills and keep food on the table, the lights on, the internet access going. So we've had to throw our focus into some other projects that will actually earn us some income. So we are still doing our podcast occasionally. We will be having a show coming up probably within the next 2 weeks. We're doing actually a test interview tonight. And so hopefully next week or the week after, we will have a show for everybody.
Yeah, I've watched the show, and we pretty much do the same thing. I was asked to go on Shadow Davis's show, but we do the same thing. It's the same, but we do have, we do have a personal connection with this case specifically. So I thought it would be good to have you on to give your perspective on what this means if the judge votes in not votes.
Renders her decision in our favor?
Yes, yes.
Well, it'll have far-reaching outcomes if she returns a judgment in our favor. For those who received tickets, criminal charges, fines during the lockdowns, if she finds in our favor, it'll mean that, one, the Reopening Ontario Act was illegal to even have in place, and the EMCPA was illegal to even call. So therefore, anything that stemmed from those two acts, which include your charges, your fines, your shopping without a mask, your opening your restaurant, public gatherings, skating on public outdoor rinks, all of those charges that people received will become null and void. So anybody who actually paid the charges will be entitled to apply for a refund and actually receive that. Anyone who got a criminal charge due to trespassing because they were in a store not wearing a mask, those people will, one, be able to have their criminal charges released or overturned, and two, again, apply for any refunds of any damages that they received or fines that they paid. So that is just the beginning of the snowman being built by what will happen, because we know also from the EMCPA and the Reopening Ontario Act, we also not only were locked down and told to wear masks, but some medical implications came out from that forced a lot of people out of their jobs unless they complied with this medical implication. People were not allowed to join their sports, eat in restaurants, ride on planes, trains, and automobiles unless they complied with this medical experiment. So any charges that came from that, or anyone who lost their jobs because of that, were refused EI because of that, they will now have cause to sue the employers, sue anyone who restricted their rights due to those health mandates that came about. They will also, those who were coerced into taking the medical experiment, anyone who actually injected that medical experiment in them without explaining the risks when asked, they will have right now to take legal action against those people. So this has far-reaching impact, and anybody that was harmed from taking the medical mandates that came out because of the ROA and the EMCPA, anyone who was harmed right now who understands that they were harmed are having problem getting funding or support from the government. This now will legitimize their, I'm going to say complaints, but it's not really complaint. It's far more nefarious than a complaint. They will now have recourse to get the help that they so desperately need and the acknowledgement that they so desperately need from our governing organizations. We know they're already getting the recognition from alternative media sources, but the mainstream media has largely ignored them and called them all crazy. So.
Yeah, they sure did. And let's make her famous. Eileen Davila. Now this is the medical officer. Now ours was Hergy. I can't remember his last name, but he was like a lot of the city councilors were all pro-mask, wear a mask, Porter and St. Catharines. Oh my God. And the doctor that got is sick now, that was famous for, pro-mask, pro-vaccine, and then she ended up sick. But also, Angel is moving in a more proactive direction. So maybe you could tell us about that, Angel, because it's quite exciting. Deputizing and creating a new system, a new reset that includes everyone and empowers everybody. And I think that's what's important, is that we have options and we do have power, so long as we know how to utilize that power and implement that power and include everyone. Because I think including everyone is what's really important. Because I would love to see a unifying of the Native community, the white European community, the settlers, and empower the culture, because that's what's being stolen with this replacement migration.
So,
Uh-oh, you're breaking up.
oh, you can't.
I turned the music off. Let's see again.
Can you not?
Yeah, you're breaking up. You may have to leave and come back. Just go sign out and sign back in. And I will bring you back.
Talk among yourselves.
Yes, we shall. Can you handle the truth? Because this is the truth table.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Oh, yes, I can. I can handle the truth. Yeah,
We
I will
can, but
bring
there's
her
so many
back
people
on.
out there that cannot handle the truth, and that's who we reach.
It's understandable. It's not easy. It's very hard to deal with the betrayal. It's like finding your partner with someone else. It's crushing. It's not just heart. It doesn't just hurt your feelings. It's crushing. And we're finding it at the medical level, and these medical officers, these city councilors, and they're all the same in Ontario. Everyone voted for Bill 67. The NDP bill for critical race theory, DEI, forced down your throat whether you like it or not. So we have nobody. So voting isn't going to save us. Okay, let's try Angel again. Welcome back, Angel.
Hi. Well, we have lawyers. There's a few good fighters that we have. We have a lot of good fighters.
Yes.
Dr. Schmicker, for one, on the medical.
Oh yes. Yep.
He stood for free at Nathan Phillips Square, Toronto City Hall, for I think a week. I think he went and he prayed. This was before the convoy even. He's been at this spot because he's also fact injured. He took a few shots before, I think he took 2 shots before he realized and was doing his research and realized that we have treatments. You know, this is COVID was a very treatable, basically a cold and flu.
Yeah.
And it was quite treatable. And so there was far greater risk, he found out, in taking these shots than getting the sickness itself, which they have
Yep.
very little. Are you hearing me?
Yep. Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but it is better. The crime to me is overcycling the PCR test to have these false positives and then getting the media to exploit that number, false case numbers every day to instill fear. And that was a big part of the crime. It was at every level. And the medical officer, like Davila, she is another part of that problem, part of that crime by, installing fear to, exaggerate it and shut down businesses. It was a crime against, the entrepreneurs out, that are. Yep, now you're gone altogether. Darn.
Uh,
Yeah.
Besides, I wasn't sure the topic, if we're going to stay on the or everything is related. I mean, COVID related.
Mm-hmm.
Related.
Yes.
But or if you wanted to focus on the case today.
Well, your part is important as well as a solution, so it doesn't happen again.
True.
The judge's decision will reflect on what we're having to deal with in the future. But you're an alternative future. Yeah, you may have to go to a different room because you're just so half.
Really?
Yeah. Don't show any of your baked goods, or I'm gonna drive down there. I've got the adoption papers already here.
In the living room?
Yep, you're not chopping yet, but I'm not gonna give up.
Okay. Well.
So tell us about the your step and deputizing people and just creating an accountable, transparent system, because obviously these people are not going to fix what they've done. They're going to cover for each other. The RCMP is going to cover for themselves. I've had guests that are, whistleblowers in the RCMP, whistleblowers in the police with Vincent Kersey's. So we know it's a systematic problem in every department and all these departments need to be replaced. They all need to be. Yeah, you're not in it at all. I'm sorry. I don't hear nothing at all. It's okay. Just leave and come back. It'll fix itself. Just like Trudeau said, the deficit will pay for itself.
Alan.
Yeah. So if there are any people out there that are lip readers, maybe we can get a lip reader in here to help so we can hear Angel. Just leave and come back, and I'm not going to leave. I'll bring you right back. Poor Angel. We have these problems all the time too. Every time she's on, and she, it's a shame because wait a minute. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bring her on Facebook. It always works that way when I have problems like this. Just to I'm going to bring you on to Facebook call. Share this tab, and that should resolve our issue. Okay, I'm calling you, Angel. I don't know if you can hear me. Yeah, there we go. Oh, finally, yes. Ta-da! Perfect.
Just to be clear, Trudeau said that the budget will balance itself.
Yeah, and as you see, it did.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, right.
So Carney
Oh,
just gave
yeah.
$1 billion to India because they do need our help, even though we're taking all their people, millions and millions. And the minister said he wants to bring 60 million. I mean, what are we, 34 million population? They want to bring 60 million. That is replacement. That is no more votes, no more Canadian culture. We become a minority. We become the worst scenario, an
Okay.
Islamic State.
We have to focus on the issue that we focus on here, though, today.
Yes.
All right. Are we going to talk about the Adam Skelly case?
Yes.
We want to focus on that, right?
Yes. Yes.
And we got Jody with us. We want to really pick Jody's brain as much as possible because she knows everything about this case. She has been there since the beginning, and she really has a lot to share about that.
Yes, absolutely.
Of it, what I'm working on. I mean, as far as the Adam Skelly case, I just popped in on Wednesday on the first day to support and to learn a bit more and to see what a great job his lawyer Ian Perry did for him.
He did.
So since the convoy, I'm just a farmer, by the way. I don't have any legal back. My son is going to law school right now, but me personally, I don't have any legal background. But since the convoy, I've been in 7 different court cases. Yeah, like not me participating, just like going in and sitting in and learning this stuff. And I never thought I would be this involved in court cases. It's not what I wanted to do. I just want to enjoy my farm and garden and raise my kids. But I realized point in any of my goals, any of my life goals for myself or my children, if we can't grow up in a free country.
Yeah.
So that's why I do what I do and get involved how I get involved.
Yep.
And also why I came up with the People's Order. So it's really a ledger. So we've got it online now. It's a ability. So it's a cease and desist order. Do you want me to read it? Can I read it?
Please.
Go ahead. Okay, I'm gonna read it. Okay, this is kind of a rough draft that I'm reading here because the one that I have on my email, I'm not gonna mess around and touch my phone because I don't want to risk losing this connection we have here. Okay, so this isn't verbatim, but this is the idea of it. Okay, it reads very well. It's in layman's terms. All right, so it's a notice of cease and desist misrepresentation to Francis Scarpetta, the Speaker of the House, the Governor General Mary Simon, King's Privy Council, and the Senate of Canada. Also, all present and past as of September 2019, members of Parliament and Prime Ministers Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney. We, the undersigned, declare and demand our right of fair representation. Members of this Parliament have breached the following sections of the Criminal Code and international laws. Okay, now these criminal codes are a little bit. I'm going to tweak them a bit on the actual what's online. So I may get a few things wrong here, but the actual breaches are what I'm saying right here. Okay, but the sections may be a little bit off. So Section 336 Criminal Code, breach of trust. The breach of trust was by failing to notify and protect all constituents and Canadians and tribal people of the Canadian Criminal Code, and tribal people, from the adverse effects of the COVID-19 mRNA injections. Section 212, criminal negligence causing bodily harm. Section 380, defrauding public funds. Okay, they were profiteering from pandemic-related investments. That's what you were talking about before, those tests and everything, the plexiglass, like just on the masks. On, but these insiders had information to as to what to invest in before this shit hit the fan, right?
Yep.
Section defrauding public funds, profiteering from pandemic-related investments, embezzlement. Here was where it really gets deep on us as taxpayers. Embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds, including, but not exclusive of the 2021 $1 billion fraudulent vaccine passport system. Remember the Arrive-Can scam? Yeah. And 50 million failed vaccine injury support program. I think Jody was touching on this when she was saying that if this ruling goes through in our favor, in Adam Skelly's favor, this is going to be a big win for everybody. The people who have been denied in the vaccine injury program can maybe now get some kind of hope of compensation, and they desperately need it. Okay, we're going to go on with the crime. The crimes go on, and the list goes on here. Section 212, criminal causing bodily harm. Section 222, homicide. We know people who have died from this. I think no family has been unscathed, and one of the most, I guess you could say, well-known or notorious case is that of Sean Hartman, who just wanted to play hockey, and less than a month later was found dead by his bed after taking these shots. One shot, I think it was only just one shot that he took. Then we have the violation of the 1947 Nuremberg Code of Ethics regarding medical experimentation, because yes, this was an experiment. And the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. And here I just want to add in, because I have been making contact with people in the Native communities, tribal people. There is a alliance of international Indigenous, and now don't shoot the messenger here. A lot of people don't like the word Indigenous, and I myself try not to use it, but that's what they're called. Okay, it's just an affiliation, but they have actually ruled that these shots were a bioweapon. So that's in the international court, right? Now Canada is in violation of that too. Not only are they ignoring that ruling, but they continue to distribute the shots. They're it's insane. Whenever I go into they're even in the bloody grocery stores.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear it on the announcements as you're walking the aisles trying to pick up some bread and milk, like that you've come in the right place shot. So I walk over to their little drugstore section, and I always inform the pharmacist that he is liable for people's lives if he's injecting that poison experimental crap in people's arms. And
What happened? Where did she go?
it's our store policy. We have to do this. What? Okay, so if your store policy is putting poison in people's arms, and you're just going to go along with it? Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yes. That's what's happening. They know, and they're still doing it anyway. So talk about liability there, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go on past the list of crimes. We have a preamble here, okay? So whereas this federal party system has led to a dysfunctional parliament, elected officials are forced and coerced to prioritize party loyalty and corporate and crown interests over the interests and well-being of the people of Canada, their constituents. And whereas this government has consistently and repeatedly misappropriated funds with impunity, as the official opposition has failed to report and prosecute these crimes, they are complicit. These crimes have significantly impacted Canadians and are endangering our physical safety, bodily autonomy, and economic well-being. We demand public release of CSIS investigation from the 2019 election and the removal from office all MPs compromised by foreign interference. We demand a halt to parliamentary proceedings until all ministries and ministers' financial records complete forensic audits. We demand an illegal and irregular findings be made public, funds restored, and criminal charges applied. We demand electoral parliamentary reform to abolish the present party system. No party should hold majority, and no MP should be forced or coerced to uphold party policy over constituents' interests.
Yeah.
Only now here is a little clause here that shows that we're not trying to do anything like overthrowing or any, we don't want anybody unjustly thrown. We're not saying burn them all or anything like that. So here, if they pass the, I guess you would call it a litmus test, we demand, only present MPs who pass audit, so if they pass the audit, they're good, and swear oath to represent and serve the people, uphold our laws of bodily autonomy and medical privacy, shall be restored to office. Sounds fair, right?
Mm-hmm.
We declare all men and women are created free and equal. We demand Parliament recognize our right to hold accountable our leaders via grand jury and remove those who commit crimes and abuse their office. No public servant is above the law. Our government shall have a duty of care and a responsibility to duly represent the people. I think it's all fair and reasonable thing.
Yeah, it is. So
there's a
but this is an example of options and ways for us to unite in different capacities and different things and exercising our rights, fighting the courts with courts, fighting legalese with legalese, and that is one way to do it. Now, Jody,
actually, I've used plain language. I have intentionally said there was in the original one we had cited quo warranto, which means that by whose authority you pass these unjust laws,
right.
But you've taken that out because legalese gives them a little back door to they can say, okay, we're going to collect evidence and install. They could take years. So we want to take out legalese. We want everything in plain language.
Yeah.
But
the other thing is legalese is too hard for a lot of people to understand.
Is favorable. It's just going to be pivotal, like historic, and like Jody said, it opens up the door for so many people who have been unjustly charged and damaged. Is Jody still there? You know what? I can't see.
Yeah, she's still here.
All I can see is you.
But I agree with her. Like, legalese is a weaponized language.
Correct.
To speak over the general public's head. To say, we're smarter than you, we're pretentious, and we know best. It's a kind of manipulation, and our enemy is intelligent. They're not stupid. They may get, puppets that seem stupid, like George W. Bush. I can see me sitting in a bar having a beer and laughing all night. But as a leader, he was a tyrant.
Well, I don't even think that it's that we're stupid or that they're more intelligent than us. Anybody can
what do you
be
think,
smarter
Jody?
than somebody else if you create your own language, which is what legalese. It's
can you hear Jody, but I can't? Oh, okay. You're gonna have to tell me what she says or something.
You know what you could do? I don't know if you can, Angel, but you might be able to rejoin with another phone, maybe, and then you'll be able to hear and see Jody, because she can't hear or see you. So. But this is the only way I could get you on without having issues. But,
Well,
you
I
know,
can
I
see,
You
will.
know,
Angel.
I think I'll sign off and come on another day when I have my laptop going.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll just sign off and I'll watch. So tell Jody that I'm watching.
Yes, and yes, I look forward to having you back, and because you are doing an important thing, and it deserves coverage. Thank you for coming, Angel.
Okay. Thank you for having me. Bye now.
Bye. And there we have it. There we go.
Yeah, Angel's doing
It's a
a
little tricky.
thing with her People's Order. I've been out at her house to one of the meetings. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get out to her meeting yesterday. But I think she's on the right track with one, making legals familiar for everybody so that everybody can actually participate, bringing it
Yeah.
into layman's terms, what
Yeah.
most Canadians understand as language, right?
Hmm.
So I think she's done a really great job in bringing that forward and pointing out again what it is that Canadians are really upset about and what we feel should be ceased and desist. So I think she's doing a really great job, and it definitely does demand some attention for sure.
Yeah, she definitely covered some areas. Are you hopeful about this case with um, uh, Adam?
I am. And the judge really, she was thoughtful in the questions
Hmm.
she asked, in the clarifying questions she asked, and she really took all of the lawyers, not just one or two, but all of them to task with what are the alternatives, and did you have the authority, and were there other options, and what exactly do these different acts that were called into question, what do they actually say, and what are the definitions between them, and who has the authority under which act to actually take the actions that happened. So it was really interesting. She really, Judge Janet Leeper, she was part of the Ethics and Integrity Commission Board for well over 26 years, and it
Mm.
showed in how she spoke with the lawyers. It showed in the questions she asked, and in pointing out, I found a couple of times she actually pointed out the ridiculousness of what some of the lawyers were presenting as evidence.
Yes.
So she really understands. And she did say right on Wednesday that she was going to reserve rendering her decision because she really wanted to make the decision based on merits, which means she's going to look at all of the evidence. The Crown prosecutor for Ontario, he basically told her, "Don't worry about it. Go back to bed." Justice Lowry has already made a decision based on the fact that he's a judge, and what a judge says goes. But he didn't base Judge Lowry's decision on any evidence that was offered. And Judge Lowry's decision in the Hillier case was based on reasonableness. Well, it seemed reasonable. The government called an emergency. Therefore, the government doesn't lie. There must have been an emergency. I don't need to worry about if there was evidence to back up that call. They said it. It must be true. Therefore, this is my decision. So he tried to tell Justice Leeper here to do the same thing. Go back to bed. You don't have to work. Justice Lowry already called it. And thankfully, her worship said, no, I'm going to read the evidence. She believes that this is a public interest case. She's going to it sounded like she was going to base her decision on public standing. And there is a difference between public standing and private standing. Private standing means the case only affects Adam Skelly. But public standing means it actually affects anyone and everyone that was affected by these lockdowns.
Yeah.
And we know many businesses went under. Restaurants that were flourishing before the pandemic was called no longer exist. Even restaurants that were in business for 20 plus years no longer exist. So Judge Leeper understands that these decisions that were made against Adam have far-reaching effects because it wasn't just Adam that was affected by these mandates. It
Yep.
was every restaurant owner in Ontario.
Mhm.
It was everyone who got a mask ticket. It was everyone who was affected by lockdowns. And it was brought up, the stats of, the suicides and the educational setbacks and the healthcare setbacks. Those stats were actually brought into this case. So even though our government announced that they're going to hide all the evidence for the next 15 years with regards to the healthcare system, we actually got those stats into play. So they can hide what they want. We already put them into or into the court case. So they are documented.
It's like they're showing that they're guilty.
Correct.
And I do love that she said, where in the Constitution did you get this power? Like refer to that section. I just loved it. I watched every day, and I was like, oh my God, this is good news. So I was very hopeful by the way she seemed. She didn't seem biased. She wasn't trying to help the crown.
No.
And that she wanted to find out exactly where you got this power from.
Exactly. And she was very much interested in the evidence.
Yes.
Okay, you claim you have the authority. What gives you the authority? And under what reasons did you call that authority into play?
Yep.
And the fact that Eileen Davila refused to answer the majority of the questions that were posted to her. We have 1,212 pages of cross-examination of Eileen Davila that were entered into evidence. And Eileen Davila, if you had to break it down to pages, I would say probably did not answer at least 180 worth of testimony. Refused to answer, couldn't remember to answer, or her legal counsel refused the question. So what are they hiding?
Yeah, that's quite astonishing, isn't it?
It really is. She wouldn't even answer questions with regards to her husband. Are you married to? Answer, because her husband is connected to Pfizer. Therefore, there's a conflict of interest that is involved here. And her husband gets paid by Pfizer, and she's making decisions that obviously ultimately benefited Pfizer. And she refused all questions with regards to her husband. So
wow,
I find that interesting.
That's a big conflict of interest. But she was quick to speak when she was, cracking down on everybody, but not in the courtroom. She was very quiet in the courtroom. But
correct.
I know we're on the right side here.
Oh, 100%. But Eileen Davila wasn't the only one who had a conflict of interest here. The one and only expert that the province of Ontario called was Dr. Hodges. And Dr. Hodges is on the payroll for the province. He's actually sits on the board of the CPSO, and he earns about $500,000 a year on the public payroll. And he was the only expert that they called. So there was no arm's length expert testimony that was given. But on top of that, Dr. Hodges admitted in his testimony twice, not once, twice, because he had to re-swear his affidavit for the second court case. We had a court case originally with Michael Swinwood as the lawyer on Adam's side, and unfortunately that was thrown out due to delays, things not being filed in time, and there was some question about jurisdiction and authority. So when we brought the case forward a second time, every witness who had already testified or submitted evidence or affidavits had to re-swear all of that under the new court file number. And so Dr. Hodges had an opportunity to change his evidence and to change his testimony, and he did not. So twice under oath, he agreed that one, he was a provincial employee, earning $500,000. He was not given the opportunity to question the experts at the table who made the decisions. He was not given access to the evidence to back up those decisions. He was not given an opportunity to sit at the table He also, being on the board of the CPSO, which is the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario, he also was privy to the CPSO statement that went out to all doctors in April of 2021, letting them know that if they dissented from government narrative or offered advice or wrote exemptions, they would be subject to penalties, severe penalties. He was also witness to doctors that did receive those penalties, which ended up being a suspension of their license or a complete and total loss of their license. So he was aware of doctors who dissented, who lost their jobs. He gave his testimony and his affidavits after all of that. So already his testimony is tainted. So there's a conflict of interest in what he is offering to the table under oath, because he understands his job is on the line if he says something contrary to the government narrative. So he wasn't privy to the evidence. He had a conflict of interest. He wasn't invited to the table. And then the real knife in the back, shall we say, to the Crown's case was that he specifically quoted, "I am just a minnow. The sharks will do what they want."
Yeah.
And that was massive. That was him saying under oath, it didn't matter what anybody else said. It didn't matter what the data said. It didn't matter what the statistics said. And it didn't matter that people were getting hurt by the decisions that were being made. It didn't matter. At the end of the day, the people at the top were going to do what they wanted, no matter what came forward. So that was super powerful, and went towards helping our case versus helping the Crown or the city's case.
Do you have any idea when she's coming back? With her, did she give any? No, nothing yet.
No, she did say, in fairness to Adam, because this has already been going on for 5 years in the courts, right? The infractions against him or violations against him took place in November 2020. However, it didn't actually get into the courts till 2021. So she said, in fairness to Adam, she was going to do her best to deliberate and come to a reasonable decision as quickly as possible. So I don't think she's going to delay it for a year or so, but I don't think we're going to hear back in a week either. You know, we offered into evidence over 300 studies. So that's a lot of reading just in that alone. And Eileen de Villa's testimony, 212 pages, Dr. Hodges, well over 100 pages himself, and then Adam's testimony. And then we offered up 6 expert witnesses as well. So she's got to read all of this evidence, all of their testimonies. Dr. Mark Trozzi also testified on our behalf with regards to the hospitals, how they were actually empty. So there is a lot of information she has to read. She's also going to take into account the NHPPA. She's going to take into the account EMCPA. She's going to take into account the ROA. She's obviously going to take into account the charter, because the majority of the case rests upon the charter and Section 1 infringements. So she has a lot of reading to do. A lot of case law was also introduced, Hillier, Trinity Bible, Taylor, they were all introduced. The Oakes test, Doré test, they were all introduced. So that's the other thing. She has to figure out whether to apply the Doré test or the Oakes test. Now, the Crown and the city really wanted her to focus on the Doré test because it's based on reasonableness. It's not as harsh a test. Whereas if you are infringing upon charter rights, you actually must bring into account the Oakes test, which is a lot more stringent. And this is what Adam Skelly, Mr. Ian Perry is arguing, that this is the Oakes test. It's not the Doré test, because of the constitutionality of what was happened, the violations that occurred.
Adam is doing he's done an amazing job. He's very clear and articulate, and he came prepared, well prepared.
He did. He 100%. I think he learned lessons from the first time around with Michael Swinwood. I think he realized the first time around he was very naive to what the law was. So he's done his homework, and Adam has impressed me so much. His growth in the last couple of years over this, his understanding of the law is exceptional. And he's fighting for everybody. He's not just fighting for himself and his criminal charges and bill that he got. He's literally fighting for everybody.
Would this free our fellow man? Would this empower our fellow man?
I hope it will empower people to stand up when something is wrong and clearly a violation of our God-given rights that are supposedly protected by our Constitution. I hope this will give everybody the courage to stand up. You know, you hear everybody say, "But I'm just one person." Well, guess what? Adam was just one person, and he stood up, and he's still standing 5 years later. He is still standing. His family is still standing for what is right and what is fair. And if we win this decision in our favor, this one man, this power of one, will have an enormous effect on literally millions of people. So I hope that what he has done, and now he didn't just do it alone, you know, he had concerned constituents of Canada backing him up. We went to him and said, "Listen, dude, you got to do this. Your case is the only one that makes sense for all Canadians. It covers all angles." And he said, "As long as I'm not alone, I will do this." And we stood up and we backed him. And we're just a nonprofit organization of 4 people, you know, Sharon, John, Chris, and myself. And we don't make a penny off of this. We literally do this out of the goodness of our hearts because we understand the enormity of this decision and how it will affect not just Adam's family, but everybody's family in the future of our country. We know the government. This is not the first time tyranny has been allowed to reign over our country. And if we don't take action now, it'll continue to reign. So this at least will bring into account the decisions that are made, and perhaps in the future, they won't be so quick to make these decisions that stomp on everybody's rights.
And we know what they're willing and capable of doing. So we have learned, you know, and even though we feel like a minnow, like the man said, you feel like a minnow, but we have to empower each other and unite. And like Angel says, regardless of the ruling, Adam is a hero and has empowered all of us.
It's David versus Goliath all over again. It's a cycle that repeats itself. And if we all bow down to the giants, then we very quickly become slaves. And it's slaves at our own device, right? Not by somebody else's. So. And
I think we're right at the fulcral point. Like we're right at the edge of the cliff. And there is really no time left. They've shown what they're willing to do. So all these positions, all these teachers' jobs, and they all have to be refilled because these people have lost their credibility. The medical officers, and even if they were coerced themselves, they still showed that they were compromised.
Correct. I keep saying, you know, people say there's still good men left. There's still good police officers left. And that was the other thing. The Crown and the city both pointed the fingers at the police and tried to throw the police under the bus, saying they acted of their own accord. They went rogue. Well, here's the thing. They were hired as agents of the city. They were hired as agents of the province. Therefore, they didn't go rogue. You are responsible for the agent's behavior underneath your power. And when you tell them, go and use any means necessary to stop a restaurant that wants to open and feed people who want their sandwiches, and you go in and you send in over 200 police officers and horses and 80 police cars and lock up the doors in the middle of the night, that is an overreach and abuse of power. And we cannot allow this to happen. This cannot be precedent setting for any time in the future against any other restaurant owner who wants to just feed his own family and keep his own dreams of entrepreneurship alive.
Yeah. These plates that Adam has, you know, and they're like massive with all, you know, ribs and oh my God. So I mean, his restaurant was amazing and very special.
The videos of his restaurant before COVID, he was on the Food Now networks, and he was getting rave reviews, and they showed how busy he was, and he'd open at 11 and he'd serve until the food was gone, and usually it was closed by 12:30, 1 o'clock, because all the food was gone. And so when you have a successful business like that, that and 80% of his business is dine in. It's not, he doesn't offer delivery. And because he's in the middle of an industrial park, not many people were coming for takeout. They were coming to sit down and eat in his restaurant. So it had devastating effects for him, especially.
But I've looked at the plates and I almost am certain that I wouldn't be able to afford one. It looks like about $1,000 worth of meat on these plates. But yeah, I would like to see a hope for our fellow Canadians, because I really think we're under attack in many ways, and this is one way that we can at least secure, so that it doesn't repeat.
Agree.
Someone sneezes and they'll kill all the chickens. They're getting so ridiculous. The 6 feet distancing. This is all abuse, psychological abuse that I've seen.
Agreed.
And a lot of people are still in their cars with masks. They're still suffering this fear. And, I don't want amnesty for that.
No.
They should not be able to have power again. They must be removed from power. And we need people like yourself and just people that are, have some moral integrity to lead, with rationale, with rational thoughts, and to think about, what will the consequences of my actions be. But this judge may set a precedent where we will be empowered. So, I would love to get, I would love to get rid of the party system. Get rid of the parties and just be able to fire someone who walks over crosses that line of integrity. We need to be able to be empowered to just fire them.
I agree. And, I'm right with you with regards to the party system. Our MPs and MPPs take an oath to the parties. They don't take an oath to the people.
Yeah.
And so when people go to election and we say, you really need to understand who you're voting for, people don't understand that. And now we're seeing, these people who were voted in crossing the line, and people are like losing their crap. And I'm like, well, you didn't actually vote for the person. You voted for the color they were wearing that day.
Yeah.
And people are people. We change colors every single day. Like, did you not think about that? The only way to get a government that is probably less likely to bow down to lobbyists and corporations and foreign international NGOs is by voting in individuals who have no ties to a party, whose job doesn't depend on them doing what the whip says of the party. It actually depends on doing what the people say. That is the only way that we get rid of tyranny, because it's a lot harder to blackmail and pressure 330 people that are individuals than it is to pressure just one person sitting at the head of a party.
Yep, and every city, every town can have town meetings, and we can have like a website like this stream, for example, where we can vote on things, and I would love to see the reform of the curriculum, where they leave with apprenticeships. When they leave high school, they've in the first 6 years they need to find out what the kids are good at, where they will excel. So they need to be exposed to carpentry, plumbing, all the different trades all through the first 6 years. And where they pick, I would love to do that, or love to be a nurse, but I would also love to be a mechanic, or I would love to be a doctor. So where they can sign up, and then we could see in the future how many doctors, how many lawyers, how many carpenters, and facilitate these kids at the next stage in high school, where we can train them to become and when they leave school, they could start working right away and start building homes and architecture. And I think they've really abused the potential of our people. They've abused and shut down and stopped and restrained the potential that we have, by
Exactly.
slowing them down sometimes. Because a kid may be able to do 3 grades in 1 year, but we don't facilitate them. And I would love to see a fluid system where they can just go and,
Exactly. Well, and understand that our society should be run on merit-based principles.
yes.
And the fact that anybody can become a politician as long as they're of the age of 18 and they can be a politician, but that doesn't mean they're actually trained or experienced in that. We see politicians being named to portfolios that they've never ever went to school for, they've never ever worked in that field of study, so that's another thing that I'm a proponent of. One, independence, no more parties. Two, merit-based. So it's not that you run for your district or your zone, your municipality, your region. You actually run for the portfolios that we need. You want to run for infrastructure, you better have construction degrees underneath your belt. You better understand how roads work, right? If you're going to run for the healthcare portfolio, you better have a career and experience in the healthcare field. Same with housing. We've got all these portfolios and we've got people in charge of them that have no clue what they're doing because they have no expertise, no education, and no real life experience in those fields. So why are we as Canadians allowing people who are uneducated, inexperienced to run these certain portfolios?
Yeah.
We allow it because they're wearing a blue jacket or a red jacket on the day of election. And that's got to stop.
Yeah, I think our system has been compromised. I don't know if they're under threat. I don't know if they've been bought off, but I know it doesn't work. And we're going to lose everything if we don't establish and renew a different system that we can participate in. A participatory system would inspire everyone because their vote will actually count for something. It can't be stolen by Dominion voting machines.
Exactly. Actually, there's a gentleman, Richie, and I can't think of his last name, but he has a company, I believe it's called Evolve. And he has done exactly what you're talking about, where we have actual participation by the citizens. You log in, it's all built on blockchain. The question goes out, the information goes out with the question, and then people have an actual say in what happens and where the money goes. So we don't need all these communities. We don't need all these task force or committees. Sorry, we don't need all these task force because a lot of our taxpayer dollars go to these task force and committees that do absolutely nothing but talk for years and years and years, and nothing ever gets accomplished. And then they take $2 billion and send it over to Ukraine. Thank you very much. And our veterans continue to suffer on the streets. Our hospitals are overwhelmed. Our education systems focus on SOGI instead of math and reading. I don't get it. When I'm 52 this year, and when I went to school, we still had industrial arts in grade 7 and 8. Everybody had to take industrial arts. I learned how to build a lot of stuff and use a lot of tools. We all had to take home economics. So we all learned how to sew with our hands and with sewing machines. We all learned how to cook. We all learned how to budget a household budget. But we also had phys ed at least 3-4 times a week. So we had physical education. We started every school day the Lord's Prayer, because this country was built on Christianity. So we started every day with the Lord's Prayer. We sang God Save the Queen. We sang Oh Canada. And then we had 5 minutes of calisthenics to start our day. Every single day, that's how we started school. And in grade 7 and 8, we actually learned social graces and how to relate to the opposite sex. And we learned how to dance. With this, these were all things that we learned and we were taught. And maybe this is why I am so enthusiastic when it comes to legal principles and rights. We were taught that we had a Canadian Bill of Rights and what that was and why it was impactful. And we were taught about the Constitution and the Charter of Rights and Freedom.
Yeah, and we should definitely learn the Constitution. Even I was talking about she had frozen up, so you may have to leave and come back. I'm not sure, but yeah, I would. if we're still stuck with this system the way it is, welcome back. then
Thank you.
I was suggesting teaching what every party that runs, even if they're not on the map, to have a day and go through that platform, go through their history. They say one thing and do another, then we teach that. Transparency. They can't be trusted, so then the children are empowered. But I would love to get rid of that party system and have a more hands-on, close, power at the source. Power, local power,
Yes.
and because right now we're being robbed blind. The 300 billion to India. Why? Why is that happening? They're stealing because any deficit is theft, but he's just deliberately doing it. He's, a gender neutral rice. What is that, man? uh, they're insane studying, fish and frogs changing their sex. And they're doing all this strange, bizarre, you know, un, unhealthy, immoral experiments on our dime. They're basically making us pay for our own prison by this remigration or this immigration, mass immigration policy. They're getting $8,000 a month while our disabled are getting offered maid and $1,400 if you're on disability.
Yes.
So it's an insult. They're paying them like they're Al Qaeda troops, which they are. I mean, which they could be. It could be an army that they're bringing here, but
Well,
they are.
they want to bring an army here now. Our
They
Canadian
do.
government
China,
has
yeah,
opened up our military to immigrants.
yeah,
What? How is that? Is 100% a conflict of interest. And that's another thing. I don't believe that any of our government officials should be allowed to hold more than a Canadian passport. Because
yeah,
who is your loyalty to? We
yeah.
make contracts and agreements and go to war with other countries. And we don't know what country we're going to go to war next with or be in negotiation trades with next. So how can you sit there with dual or multiple passports under your belt and actually say you're working for Canada? You can't.
Hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, to be a politician earning taxpayer dollars, you have to be 2-3 generations Canadian to do so.
Yeah, and I would like to freeze their bank accounts and read their emails, just
Yes.
like they're doing it to us. I mean, we need that power.
Yeah.
We need to find
Audited
out,
every year.
follow the
Everybody
money.
audited.
We need to follow the money.
Yes.
And if let's say we find out George Soros is involved or Bill Gates, then we can seize his money and property and ban him from the country and arrest him if he shows up. I would love to get rid of GMO seeds, and market, and I like to get poison out of our children's cereal.
Yes.
I mean, this is all logical things for me. These aren't things that either one of us would put in our cereal for our children.
Right?
You, you know,
I don't know. I pour a bowl of cereal instead of milk. I pour turpentine on it. Like, isn't that what everybody
yeah.
does?
I mean, how much money are they saving by, so this has to end. It's going to end. We're not, it's something we may have to die for, but we have to stand for something,
Stand for
and
something or die for everything.
and we have to unite. We have to join together, and all these things that are happening, like with Angel and Dana. We need to join up and participate, vote whenever there's an opportunity to unify. We have to jump in, because time is short, and we're going to need to if justice comes, we're going to need to replace all of these people.
Agreed.
And so we need good people to stand up, put their name forward, teachers, doctors, nurses, all these people that, lost everything. We are here for you. You're not alone. Even though you feel alone, you're not. And, that's what this show is about. It's about, showing you that there are corruption in every department, and and just exposing the truth, and hopefully giving you hope and inspiring you to become who you're meant to be.
Yes. God created all of us with a purpose. And if we don't start listening to that inner voice, we're never going to discover our purpose, and we're going to continue to repeat the mistakes of the past. So we need to start opening our hearts and our ears and our soul to God's words and what he's telling us. Because surely Satan is running amok right now. And
Yeah.
unless more people open up and listen, he's going to continue to run amok and destroy everything that God built.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, and I hope you come back, because I'm going to continue talking about Adam as we move forward. And I've been wanting you on the show for a long time. Thank you for coming on and
Welcome, Paul.
being your beautiful self. And I hope to dig into one of your dishes again at some kind of event. She's a great cook, folks. I'll tell you that much. I love good cooks.
That was my job at the Freedom Convoy. I was working at Control, and I cooked for 60 to 120 people every single day. So it's one of my passions, and I hope I get to continue doing that, God willing.
Yeah, I thank you for all that you do, and I'm there for you, and you're there for me, and we're there for you. So I want to thank you for coming, and thank you all for joining us at home at the Truth Table. See you next time on the Truth Table.